really good advantages, and you will see that. If I could get my correct number in here. Oh, we forgot to show you Marlowe's site. Oh, sorry. Real quick, before we get into that, let's look at the guy who's going to come on April 28th is named Marlowe. His company is neeba.agency. And I just wanted to show you his site because this site is kind of more of a modern design. Of course, he's a video agency, so they have a big video hero banner at the top here. And we saw how to do that, right? You can link directly to YouTube for that. Remember we saw that at the beginning of the semester? So you can do that as well. Remember, it's put the layer negative. Remember how to get it to be in the background behind everything? I think I gave you some code. Was it -0 or something? Or -1, I think, for the layer? Z, the Z, right. There was a way to put it in the background.
The Z index.
Yeah, the Z index is what you would do for that. It's a kind of a nice site. If you scroll down, you got, let's work together, feature projects here. It's very simple. You can see the videos. There's a lot of things going on. As you scroll down, he's got some nice big text, kind of giving you there. Again, the menu at the top is kind of sticky and it stays there, right? We learned how to do that, right? I showed you how to do a fixed. Remember that? And then as we scroll, you'll see we got 3 options here, as well as you scroll down, then they got a kind of a 3 option with some animation. This is simple animation that can be done in HTML5, HTML5, HTML5. These kind of things can be done in transitions in Dreamweaver. And then if you go down a little bit further, you'll see, they have a nice sort of menu at the bottom with their address and everything. Again, the owner of this company will speak on April 28th if you want to come to...
You should tell him that he hasn't updated his time.
Where's that?
You go to the very bottom, it says it's 8:51 in San Jose.
Oh. Where's the time?
There.
Oh. Maybe he's still, the old time. Yeah, this is...
Why put something that requires update if you're not going to update it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's the old time is the...
Yeah, but still, it has no value add to have it on
Yeah,
the website.
daylight savings time. But it is responsive. They got the video changing as it gets smaller. Okay. And they go to a burger menu, as you can see. A nice kind of pull-out burger menu. And so he's been quite successful. He's more of a community organizer, and he hires a lot of young people. And look, there's a problem there. But I guess we're not, he's not expecting people to resize it all the time. There we go. Oh, stuck burger menu. But think about it, that's all. Okay, let's get to there. So again, probably I'm just going to read a little bit. We're going to kind of go through this book. This is a book about responsive design, but it has some good concepts about how to change as the size of the dimensions go down, how to reconfigure the content. And so we're going to kind of follow this book a little bit, and you can read it yourself. It's a PDF book. You can download it and read it on your own.
When was it written?
It's probably 5 years ago for you. It's an older book, but it still has the same concepts today. If I was doing something by hand, I would use. So it's put on by the people that do the List Apart, right? Remember the website we've looked at? The List Apart website is the same website that had the founding of the responsive design that we looked at, right? So it's the same people. It has a good theory and some things that we can try, kind of building upon what we learned already. In fact, this is the second edition from the book of what we were doing at the beginning. So you remember the week before we left, and I had the colors changing as the thing goes down, and I said, oh, we were using this code. Remember that sample code? That sample code was from the book previous to this book. This is the second edition. This is the book that's after that. So this is like expanding upon that. The sample site that they build in this book looks like this. This is the sample site. Again, it has four different media queries. One for large screen, one for a medium screen, one for this kind of screen, and then one for a mobile screen. So I believe there's four, kind of like this, and then like this, and then like that. So there's like four different ones, I think. The key here is how does these things jump. You can see how the boxes will rearrange and change in size as it gets smaller. So the most important thing to think about today as we're talking about this is how do the boxes get smaller and rearrange themselves as they get small. See how they go to the bottom here, how the pictures change in size. Now these are the same pictures. They're just altered a little bit according to where it's located. See that? So not only are they only getting smaller, but maybe they get bigger in a smaller screen. Do you notice that? See, on this screen, the pictures here are kind of one size, but when you get down here, they get bigger. So there's a whole chapter in this book about how to resize the images properly. And then there's a lot of problems with resizing images. He talks a lot about how, as you resize the image, how the image might need to be overflow, which means it expands the div itself, and so on. And it actually gets cropped off. So there's a way as the thing gets smaller that the image actually gets cropped. Instead of squeezing it all the time, you can actually crop a little bit, which could cause problems, but it could be better. I don't know. He talks a lot about that. And then so on. So I found this to be a good, simple way of thinking about it. So let's just go through some of the chapters here and talk about them. So you can read this on your own. Again, I would recommend starting at the top and reading. I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit here. And of course they talk about, why would I make responsive sites here? And let's get started. And then they talk about different companies that are using them. They talk about the main ingredients. Let me make this bigger so we could read it a little bit here. Again, to make a responsive site, the three main important concepts that you need to know is how to make a flexible layout using grid-based layout. So this is going to be kind of a talk about grids and how we can split the web page up into columns and how those columns will affect the content as it squeezes it down. Of course, you need your flexible images and media, and then of course we need our media queries, which we learned last class about how it will restructure our page. So the three main things we need to deal with and the three main concepts that this book goes over is these three main concepts here. Of course, they're going to start with a flexible grid. And so what is the flexible grid? Well, it's a way of splitting your web page up into columns. And as those columns are adjusted, how does the content rearrange or scale? You're either scaling it or rearranging it. Either way. Scaling, rearrange. Either way. So let's get started. They talk a little bit about some samples. And it's good writing. It's kind of, not really humorous, but it's good writing if you have time to read it. It's kind of interesting. He talks a lot about, robots and things. And then here's the sample site. He just talks about the sample site that they made and then goes right into the flexible grid. Okay, so what is, again, like I just told you, the flexible grid is where you split your page up into columns, and as the page changes size, those columns will dictate how the layout will be. Just like if you're designing a print thing, right? You're using InDesign, most likely you have columns in InDesign to do a publish thing, right? Well, same with here. You can do the same here. But of course, they say it's not that easy, and they kind of talk about that right there. But there's ways of getting around it. So they have a sample here, of course, of to write an element. You'll see right here. If the way that this page is laid out, the main div, the top div, is going to be called page. Okay, so as we go through, this is the top one. So he's going to talk making, of course, a fixed layout. Then he'll go into making a fluid layout. Okay, so again, this is something that we've already done probably 1,000,000 times before, at least 100 times before, where we have a main box and we have a fixed size, and then we have 0 margin, so it's in the center of the page, right? We already know this, right? Okay. So we've all gone through this before. So flexible typesetting. Again, we've already talked about this in class before. Well, here's their layout in Photoshop. And they show the grid structure. Of course, most websites, when we're talking a flexible grid, we'll start with a 12-column grid. So if we count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12-column grid structure is the most common way of starting. Now you see these, they're invisible. It's inherently noted. This is not something that you see visually when you're building this. This is just a kind of mental idea of how the so most common, again, is, like I said, the 12-column grid structure. And there's a lot of starting points for that. If you would want to learn more about that, and I think you should do a lot more research, you could just search. And why am I searching here? I want Google. 12-column grid. So if you just, and look, they even have the 12-column grid in Sketch. Did you see that? So here's the most common. Bootstrap has their own 12-column grid. And then they have, you know, the 12-column grid is the most common. Here's that 960 grid. This is a very old one. This is an old one here. This is probably from about, this is at least 6 years old, I would say, at least. But so they have a lot of starting points for the 12-column grid. I used to use this one in class a long time ago, and you can download it. And they do have samples somewhere. Where is it? Where's the samples? They did have samples somewhere. View demo maybe. Yeah, here it is. So as you can see, here's the 12-column grid structure. So a main big page would start with 12 columns, but as you go down, oh no, it's not going down. They do have a sample that changes as I do this. I know it. I've seen it. But you can see sort of the concept here is that as you go down, you have specific size options, and you can then change your media query according to the content as it goes down. Now, of course, 960 is an old kind of concept, and the reason why it's older is because it's kind of small, right? Today, you know, most people have a 1200 at least monitor, so you might want to be using a little bit larger. 1024 is a common one now instead of using the 960. In fact, 1200, the 1200 is actually a common size now for a desktop starting size, or ending size in this case. The book goes over doing cell phone first and going up. Instead of going 1200 down, they talk about... Yeah. You go, the book this book that we're talking from goes from small to big.
That's why I asked. It doesn't seem logical to go from small to big, but it seems like most books talked about going from that approach.
So again, this is a little older, but I just want you to know the concept of the 12-column grid structure there. So you can do some research, look into that. And I lost my preview here. What happened to my book? Okay, so again, very common to do the 12-column structure. So to do their first concept in this book, they start with, of course, font. And we've already learned that the base font for a website would be what? 16 pixels, right?
20.
Yeah, 16 pixels. So they talk a little bit about that, of course. And so they have this sample here. We can try some of it if you want. I went through and tried it by just copying and pasting it into a HTML page. So in this case, they have some content. And so some of the things you'll notice here is, of course, this is just a simple H1 tag. And we'll talk about the problem of H1 in a moment. So if we look at the and then, of course, they have the body tag. And so let me copy and paste that so we can try some of theirs. We need a head section here. Oh, what am I doing? What do I write? How do I write? CSS style. Thank you. So if we just look at this real quick here, they have a sample. And if we preview this, we'll see we got our H1 tag, and of course it's really big. So we want to be able to style this text using the basic structures that we know already. So if we look at nothing too fancy, we applied light gray to the background, an entire document is fairly dark text, and we see that at the beginning. Okay, color, and finally we dropped in some characters. Probably notice the font size has been set to 100%. In doing so, we simply set our base type size to the browser default, which is in this case 16 pixels. We already talked about that. We can then use the M's to size text up or down from the relative base. So again, here's coming back to the M size, which is going to be how they measure almost everything inside here is using M's. Even, in fact, measuring the columns in M's. So as you saw the columns in the grid structure that we looked at the very beginning, that can also be measured, the size of the boxes in M's as well. So as we go along, wondering why the H1 doesn't look well, headline why, we're currently using a receipt style sheet which overrides around HTML, which is a handy way to get around. At any rate, that's why our H1 looks so small. What is there? It doesn't look small. It looks kind of big to me. I didn't change it. Oh, they get it. We can copy this and put that in. And let's see what that looks like. Nope, we got some nice fonts, and it does look a little smaller, but this, of course, is the same size. I want that to be different. So let's move on. So with one simple CSS rule, we can set some high-level parameters for our design. So again, the next one is a link, right? So this one over here is a link. So we can do a combination of H1 and the A tag to adjust that. Of course, still using pixels in this case for the font. So if we highlight that and we put it in there as well, you'll notice that the text size of the edge is now small with some color. As you can see, small with some color. Again, simple HTML, CSS. That would be fine, there's nothing actually wrong with setting your type in pixels, but before the purpose of our relative typesetting experiment, let's instead start to think proportionally and express those pixel-based font size values in relative terms. So instead of pixels, we'll use our friend the M space. To do so, we'll need to do a teensy bit of math. We'll simply take the target font size from our comp and divide it by the font size of the containing element. In other words, its context. The result is our desired font size expressed in relative, oh-so-flexible M's. The other word, relative type size, can be calculated with this simple formula. In fact, everything is going to be done with this simple formula. Okay, the target is what you want it to be. The context is where it's going to be. And the result is what you're going to put in. Okay? And so, let's see how they calculate it. So let's read. A quick aside, if you're at all like me, the word math causes immediate serious panic. By speaking as somebody who took a philosophy course for college math credit, that was me too. I did take not philosophy for math credit, but one math class. Don't run screaming to the hills quite yet. I rely on my computer's calculator program heavily and simply paste the result in my CSS. So I think I explained this to you last week. When we get to doing the columns, we're going to be using columns that have big decimal places. It could be, 12 or 12.33333333 M. Remember, we're talking computers here. They can deal with those big decimal places that our brain doesn't deal with. Okay, that's sort of what he's kind of talking about here, is that when we're doing the calculation, don't worry about the giant decimals that you're going to see. So with our formula in hand, let's turn back to the 24 headline. Assuming that our base font size is 100% on the body element, equates to 16 pixels, we can plug those values directly into our formula. So we need to express our H1 target font size 24 pixels relative to the context 16 pixels, and we get 1.5 M's. So let's say we're looking for a 24-point text, right? The base is 16. 16 is 1 M in this case. So we take 24 divided by 16 and we get 1.5 M.
So is that saying that 24 pixels is equivalent to 1.5 M?
Yes. So if you want 24 pixels on your page, you don't need 24 here. You put the 1.5 M in there. And if you save it, you're going to get the same results as using the 24 pixels. But of course, we're not supposed to be using pixels, right? That's the whole purpose of this, is that you need to stop thinking of pixels and start thinking in a different light. And the reason why is M's can be flexible. It's a flexible grid. So the same with this right here. So if we want this to be half the size of this, we're going to have to calculate that, which is not going to be a simple one. That's what they're talking about here. So if we scroll on down, we got our, and there we have it. 24 pixels is 1.5 times greater than the 6 million, so our font size is 1.5 M. We put it in there. They also, you'll see throughout this little formula right here. So as you're writing and making your CSS, you should put your formula in there to help you remember what you were doing, because you will use that formula a little bit later on. So what is this formula? Especially in all these books, if you're reading any of the books about responsive design, you'll see this formula throughout. And what that is telling us, and it's a commented out, right? Commented out, you get the / with the star. This is a commented out function right here. And if you'll notice, it says 24 pixels divided by 16 pixels is the formula that we use to get that. Okay? So as you see that throughout, you will notice that. So again, you can include that in here. If you are using, in this case, if you're using, we can put this on a second line if you want, like that. If you're using Dreamweaver, they do have a comment section here. It's over here, this option right here, where it says apply comments. Now, if you're applying CSS comments, it's different than the HTML comments. This would be the HTML, the comment below for HTML. This is the CSS one with the little asterisks right there. So if you're using Dreamweaver for this, you can actually put that in like that, and then put in your 24 pixels divided by 16 pixels, like that.
Can you use the calc function in the CSS?
I'm sure.
Jennifer, can you use calc function in CSS? Instead of actually having to do the division up front, can you do the calc in there?
I don't know if you can use it for font size. Never tried it with font size.
That way you
I've
wouldn't
only
have to
done it
comment it out.
But for the margin, it was working. Yeah, right?
Yeah, if you want to subtract the margin or padding, the calc is good for width, but I've never tried it with font size. I don't know if it works. I don't think it will.
Okay, but you get the concept, right? Let's move on, because this is the concept throughout this whole book on how to get the appropriate number here. Okay, the same. It's going to be the same formula. And voila. Our headline size perfectly matches the size specs for our comp, but is expressed in relative scalable terms. I usually put the math behind my measurements in a comment, which I just told you right here, to make future adjustment. With that squared away, let's turn our lonely little red read more link. Actually, as you can see, the figure 2.7 is not little, and that's the problem. The size of our comp at 11 pixels in a generous kern sans serif. We need to scale the text down a lot because at the moment it's simply inheriting font size 1.5 set on the containing element to H1. So, oh, I don't know. Oh, we're still using pixels. That's why it's small here. They probably removed that earlier. And that's important to note because the headline text is set to 1.5 em. Any elements in that element will be changed as well. So to set the font size of our link in ems, we'll divide our target, which is 11 pixels. So that they want that text, wherever it is, to be 11 pixels. Right now, we put it as 11 pixels, but that's not flexible, right? So the problem again right here is if you look, we put 11 pixels right there. See it? Okay, so we don't want 11 pixels there. We want to put ems in there. Ems in there. So in this case, if we look at the book there and we come down here, you'll notice I got my 11 pixels divided by 24. Why are we using 24 and not 16?
Because that's our base. No.
24 is this.
Half of 24.
The font size of the headline, our new context. So remember the headline, I believe, is 24. I think that's sort of what they're saying, is that even though it's 1.5 ems, it's actually 24 pixels, right? Because 1.5 is 24 pixels. That's what I'm assuming. So we go 11 is our target. That's what we want. We divide it by what the container. Basically, the H1 is the container. This is the link that's inside the H1, right? If you look here, you see link inside of the H1. So we're changing the size of the link in the H1. So if we come over here, and you'll notice here's the crazy math I was talking about with your 0.45338, 33333. If you put that in there, inside there, it should, in theory, do the same exact thing as putting pixels in there. Uh-oh, it's big. That didn't work. What did I do wrong? The font size of the headline, our new context. After the little division, we are left. Oh, we gotta change the 60 number. Probably say yeah. Yeah. So wait. Now you might be tempted to round it to that, but the nearest looking thing, say to 1.46, but don't touch that delete key. It might make our eyes bleed and look at it, but perfectly represents our font and proportion. And so why does mine not look like theirs? What did I do wrong? Oh, I didn't say em. Thank you. That's what I didn't do. And it was just inheriting the first one. No? Do I need space after that? Maybe I don't want it jammed all in here.
Yeah, you probably don't. You want to just put font size.
Yeah. Let's cut this out.
Oh, wait, you have the division in there. Get rid of
Oh.
11 divided by 24 equals.
Oh. So what do I want?
You just want the 0 point, you've already done the math.
Going crazy here. And EM could be next to it, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, okay. See? There we go. Whoosh. But again, flexible fonts using the M space. Okay, let's continue. So again, oh, here it is, yeah. So again, you can put this in there if you want to tell you, hey, I did it. So let's put our sample in there. That would be at the end here. Let's put that on its own line. Let's put this here. There we go. So again, putting your comment there to tell you how this is calculated is a good practice. Okay, so let's move on. From flexible fonts to flexible grid. So just like you saw us calculating the size for the text, you can do the same thing for the dimensions of your website by using the same concepts that you just used for the fonts. It's possible for you very, very bored right now. I mean, okay, so again, typesetting and math, build a flexible, but the first time I had to build a flexible grid, I had no idea where to begin, so I did what I do every time I'm faced with a problem I don't know how to solve. I avoid it entirely and start working on something else. Yeah, that's what we all do, right? Yes. Okay, but we're going to start. Okay, let's start again and think about this. So now we're going to talk about building the grid structure. As I started working on the settings, the sites type in M's, I had a minor epiphany or whatever, namely that we can apply the same sort of proportional thinking to the layout that we applied to relative font size. In other words, every aspect of our grid, the rows and the columns and the module draped over them, can be expressed as proportions of their containing elements rather than an unchanged inflexible pixels. And we can do so by recycling our trusty target divided by context equals results formula. So let's start. Again, they're going to do a new page. And so I'm going to start with a new page. I'm going to copy this content. So I'm going to save this one as my font sample. What's that? Sure, I guess. Yep. I'm just gonna start with a new one though. This is our font example. We can leave that there. Let's start with a new example here. So in this case, they have divided the page up, kind of like what we did last class, right? Where you have a main div, right? And the main div, you have a section. They have a subsection, and then they have. I'm not sure why they have a main here. Oh, this is like an underneath section, and I'm not sure what other is here. Other would end here, wouldn't it? Let's put this down here so it looks like that. Okay, so let's start reading here. So again, it turns out our designers likes us so darn much that she even included a quick content inventory of the page, which will save us some pre-production planning. We should really send her some cookies or something. We can handily translate her scheme into a basic markup, which you see here. Then, so basically it's going to look like this. So again, this is a standard blog looking layout where you have your title at the top, or section title at the top. You have your main content, and then you have some articles that are inside. And then you have an A side. I know they're not using A side, but this is typically called A side in HTML5, right? Okay, so you have your A side there and so on. So this is sort of the starting structure, and how do I go down. So let's look. Our skeleton markup is lean, mean, and systematically rich, perfectly matching the high-level content inventory. We've created a generic container for the entire page called page. which in turn contains our blog module, and within blog we've created 2 more containers, a div class as main, our main article content, and other div classes as other for other stuff. Poetry, it ain't, but poetry it doesn't have to be. At this point, we're going to skip a few steps in our exercise. In fact, let's pretend that this is one of our cookies showing up, where the chief throws a bunch of ingredients into the pot and then turns around to produce a fully cooked turkey. But let's assume that we've already done all the CSS relative to the typesetting, background image, and just about every element or design that isn't related to layout. With those other details finished, we can focus exclusively on producing a fluid grid. So how exactly do we turn those .main and .other blocks into proper columns? With our context inventory finished and some basic markup in place, let's go back to the comp and get a closer look. Reviewing design tells us a few things. First, that the grid itself is divided into 12 columns, which measuring 96 pixels across and separated in 12 pixel grids. So again, we're talking mostly about a pre-made design, and I think it's already there. This is the template that they have. If you want to start with their pre-made design, I don't know if copying this will actually work. We can try it. Okay, we can try it. I'm not sure if this is going to look the way they expect it to work. No, it's not going to look. Way too many things open. Way too many things open. But they do have a sample here. If you download this zip file, is their sample starting point right here. So in Canvas, there is a starting file that's right here. And if we save that file and then download it, they have the sample file here. So this is what they give you from the basic HTML page. And let's see, is this the basic one right here? Let me try this. It looks like it has a bunch of scripts already in it. It does have some title in it. Yeah, it's the completed one. So that one was completed. No MQ. What do you think MQ stands for?
Media query.
No media query. Good job. What's this? Let's see, what is this one? Oh, that's the text example. No media query. Template blog, no media query, type only. Template blog, no media query. I'm not sure which one is which. Let's see this one. This looks like it already has some, well, it has 100%. So E is in.
Try the other one. Maybe they mean this has got the type already taken into consideration. Yeah, that one.
Oh, there's one more in there. Let's see this one. Oh, seems they have something in there. I don't know where their starting point is. Let's get back to the reading and we'll see. What does it say? So in this case, the main page is 96 pixels wide. centered in a 96 pixels wide. A blog module within the container set to width of main. So if we look here, there's a margin over here of 36. So that's why they're getting 90 here for the main blog. And then we have main. Nice and neat. We've set the width of the dot page to 96 pixels, centered the 900 pixels wide. Dot blog module within the container set the width of dot main and the other and dot other to 566 and 331 pixels relative respectively. So then they come down here to our grid structure. So each one of the 12 is 96 pixels.
Why do they add the pixel in between the two?
The gutter, you mean?
Yeah.
Down here? Because that's going to be the factored into your margins for the space between your boxes, so that any content that you have in there has space between it, so that it's not bumped up against each other. So it'll be a column, or a grid, or what am I trying to say? A gutter. Well, our layout matches the comp perfectly. The results is downright inflexible. Fixed at a width of 96, our page is blissfully indifferent to the changes in viewport size, forcing a horizontal scroll bar upon the reader and to open slightly below 1024 pixels. So that's what it should look like. And then I start building on that. Okay, but we're going to run out of time. So I'm going to kind of stop talking here. We can continue from this as well as learn some sketch. But Jennifer is going to show us what? Your sample?
Yeah. You can also show us the sketch.
Sketch. Let me quickly demonstrate sketch for 5 minutes, and then we'll let Jennifer go. So we can continue from this. I've gone through about half of this already. I did go through all this and then down here and talked about how to build the thing. So we'll go through, but I think it's important that you learn how to do the layout kind of like this. So you can start reading. Okay, again, it's all on Canvas. Again, you should have another program on your computer now, and let me just give you a quick introduction so you might want to start. And I've already have a sample demonstration that I'll probably have to do outside of class, because we'll never have enough time in class for me to show you how to use Sketch and coding at the same time. So maybe I'll just do some videos on how to use Sketch, and you can watch it some other time. That's probably what I'll do. So I don't know how much. I'll do some quick demos in class. But again, you know, for the past couple years, we've been using Illustrator and Photoshop to build basic comps or wireframes for websites. But within the past a year or so, and if you remember from last fall when our guest speaker came from the design agency, what was his name? Does anybody remember his name from last semester? I can't remember his name. But he came and talked. He said all the designers that he represents at the design agency use Sketch. They all use Sketch, and not necessarily Photoshop and Illustrator. Though the comps that I got from the people from for the Zircon site, they were all done in Photoshop. So Sketch is kind of an app that is made to build wireframes and comps for websites. In addition to building comps and wireframes, it can also export out content in the appropriate way. Okay, so you're able to take the content out. It'll actually export out CSS files and things like that for you. So it's a good starting point. Once you start the application, you got Android. If you're doing Android, you got iOS for Mac. Of course, this would be for the Android operating system, Mac operating system. UI design is again iOS for again the Mac. Material design is for Android as well, so they have both icon and as well as material design. But then, of course, they have web design as well. Now, you're not forced to use the web design. They do have, basic starting point here. If you click on web design, it'll give you 3 different comps for, phone, tablet, and desktop. Or you can just start with a new document, and it'll give you a flexible document. So how this program works, and I got about 2 minutes before I'm done talking. I'm just going to give you a quick, as fast as I can talk. How it really works is you can make multiple pages. So let's say you're doing a multiple page website inside of Sketch for a comp. You could make multiple pages in this program. So I know it says page 1 is a default page. If you wanted to put an artboard, it's just like in Illustrator or Photoshop. You can make an artboard very easily by going under here, and you'll see it has artboards. If you choose, and this is all insert right here. You can make vector graphics, you can draw shapes, you can import basic shapes, type text, you can bring an image in, artboard, slicing, symbols, and styled text. The symbols and styled text is a way of reusing content over and over again. So if you have one headline that you want to use in multiple pages, you make it a style, and then you just repeat that style over and over again. A symbol would be a graphic that you would use, or an image, or an element that you want to use over and over again within, and it'll keep the same settings. The beauty of using a symbol is that if you change the symbol, it'll change on all the elements. So it's a repeatable item that you can use. Again, you start with artboards, and you can draw an artboard out on the screen. This could be our desktop artboard, and if you come over here, you can put it at any size you want. So if it's a desktop screen and you're designing at, let's say, a monitor that's 1200 pixels by, and of course the bottom doesn't have to be the same, but we could say 1000 pixels there. And so you can start with that. Just like in Photoshop, you can zoom in and out. You got your command minus to zoom out, and your command plus to zoom in. You can also hold the space bar down to give yourself a hand, though it's not there. So you can make an one artboard. You can name that artboard desktop. Right, and then I can come over here to make another artboard, or I can actually duplicate this artboard. It's much easier. If you remember from Photoshop or Illustrator, you can duplicate objects by holding down the Option key. So I can duplicate this over here, and then I can change the size of this. So let's say you're making a, what am I trying to do? A 900 pixel wide one by 1200 height. I don't know. And then we want another one, and then we're going to do 600 by 1200 is fine, and then we can duplicate this again, and then we could say this will be my 320, I don't know, super small cell phone, whatever. And so then you can go and start building your design again. You have page 1. Then once you build your design, you could duplicate this and then just adjust it for page 2 and so on. So that's actually what I'll demonstrate how to. So again, this is just like kind of a Photoshop-like program where you can build interfaces very quickly. And so this is easier than Photoshop. The reason why somebody would use this over Photoshop or even Illustrator is that it's easier to, you see how quick it was for me to put these artboards on there. Now I could do this in Illustrator, but once you start seeing how this puts things together and how it manages content and how it can export out content ready to be used on your page, it'll save you time in the long run. That way you can show your client, hey, this is what it's going to look like before, and they give you, of course, money, I hope. Then you can export it out of here and into your code very quickly. And I think that is the advantage of this. Okay, so I will probably most likely, like what I said I'll do, is I'll probably, since we'll never have time in class, I'll just make you videos, and you can then watch the videos on your own, because then I can use them again next semester in my other classes too. So I don't know. We'll see. I have a sample that I could show you that I've already made, maybe next class. I don't know. One that has some content in it and stuff like that. But it's a really easy tool to use. It's on the computers already. They give us a discount for schools, but how much does it cost? It costs about I don't know, $100 or something like that. I think it does.
I had to write down that you don't know it's long. Because it's just a sample WordPress for a theme I was working on. Oh, that's not search. I made this for a friend's fan site. Let me type it in.
And you guys should start thinking about content and being able to make stuff. You notice how she has all this content for, comic books, right? Having content, you can have a hobby.
Equals default and pre CSS. Alright, it's for Paul Rudd fan site. I made this for my friend, but as you can see, the navigation bar is here, and when I resize it, it goes like that.
Very nice.
And the content, as you saw, went from having two columns to being one, and the sidebar went below.
Uh-huh.
And the current projects thing, it's 2, and then it goes to 1 as it resizes down. And
Is that GIF animation there?
yeah, it is.
Okay.
I was just testing images.
And it's responsive too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
When I size it down, the image goes smaller as well.
Was that Strange? Was it a movie?
Yeah, Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, that's it.
But, and another thing is, here the header is longer and a bit different than here. It's 2 different images. They look similar because I want it to...
flipping the image then, is that it?
Yeah, I'm changing...
Replacing it?
Yeah. I have... Let me go into the...
So, keep that in mind. Not everything has to be not necessarily scalable, but you can replace
Right here.
an image.
I have the header, and then I have the header M, which is the mobile one. And then I have the different classes. The wide one is on display block when it's on a larger screen, but it goes to display none, and this goes from display none to display block when it goes to a smaller screen. I also have 2 separate navigations because it was completely different coding,
so in order to
CSS wise.
So in order to make the burger menu, you're basically switching. You're not just taking the old navigation and squeezing it into some kind of burger thing. You're making it a whole new thing, right?
Yeah, because the code is very different. So this is the navigation link normally, and then and this is the mobile burger one.
Okay.
I think I mainly did it because I wanted to take out the Twitter link.
Yeah.
Goes from there, and then it's not there anymore because it'd be kind of weird to have a whole line and then one little thing right there. And Twitter has an app and everything, and I want to deal with that on the mobile
site.
site.
Keep the navigation the same and put Twitter not as part of your navigation bar, but like something to the right of the navigation bar.
She's talking a separate item.
I'd have to make a table to do that, or I would have to put the...
Yeah, but then your navigation would all be the same coding. And that way you don't have to change it in 2 places.
Yeah, but the links aren't going to change anytime soon, not while this theme is up. It's not up yet. That's why it's on a sample site right now. But, no, right now I have my navigation at a... Yeah, I could do that, but I just didn't. I don't know why.
I think it's because I was coding on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I finally did this on Sunday, and I was just kind of burnt out from coding constantly. So I think that's why I didn't do that way. But yeah, the image changes, the navigation changes, the sizes change. See how this is wider, and then that. Yeah, this is for 1200 pixels size, and then this is 1000.
So 12. So what were the different sizes you were going for? So 1200, 1000.
I have a lot of. So I have.
I see 1017 pixels.
I have 1227. I included space for the sidebar.
And then the one down below is 1017?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then the one below it is.
Notice how you have screen and device, right?
Yeah, and then the last one is just for device.
So no screen, just device.
Yeah, this one is just for device. But this is screen and device because there's still stuff from before that I want it applied, like colors and stuff like this.
What's the difference between screen and device again?
Screen is like a computer, device is mobile app.
It's a media query that can be twice, too. Because one you can say for a phone and the other one for screen. And notice how it says screen and device above the top, right? You have screen and device. But of course, down below, there's really no screens that are less than 768, really.
So
No,
you
but
have
sometimes
one
people do minimize their browsers into something smaller.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Like,
people who are testing something.
and this is how I test it.
Yeah,
I
that's
go
what I'm
down,
saying.
so I want to have the and screen. But then I noticed it didn't look exactly the same on a mobile device, so I added just the mobile. So I think the font size got bigger when you went down.
Okay, very nice. Give her a hand. Thank you. Wow, how many hours did you put into this?
Too many. Because this part took the longest with the margins, basically, between the posts. And then this H4, I wanted it to overlap the image, but some of them don't have the image like this one. And, oh, I clicked on the wrong one. And if I went to, let's say, the next page, this one, I didn't want it to overlap the header, and I didn't want it to overlap this, so that took me the longest to get it to work.
Littlest things.
The littlest
spend
things.
The longest time on. It's like
Yeah.
the big banner and everything didn't take that long, but just that one little margin underneath the.
Yeah, this
Frustrating.
part right there took me the
It's
longest.
so frustrating.
How to get that to work without the image and with the image, because you can put post images on WordPress, and that's a post image that's on WordPress. And this image is a background image for that div, so it crops when it needs to. See how it kind of crops.
Looks great.
And then there's a block quote and stuff. Image hovers. Link. That's a link. Oh, wait. Copy.
Is it all one page? Or
Uh,
is it multiple pages? For your links, do your links take you to the same, is it all one big long page?
no, the links take me to just the individual post, plus the comment section, because this is WordPress. So if I went like, I'm so used to using the PC. Command. So there it takes me to just the post and then the comment section. And I did the styling for that too, to match the block quote in the comments. I don't know why I did that.
And when you write your own WordPress templates, do you use other people's plugins? You don't write your own plugins too, do you?
The
Like
only
like leave the leave a reply. Is that a plugin that you use?
No, that's
Wrote it
no.
yourself?
That just comes with WordPress.
Yeah.
Like
That's the standard one for
Yeah.
a blog post.
Yeah, this
Okay.
but I went into the CSS and this is
Colored in.
my own style. No, the whole styling, the positioning, that's all mine because I went in to let me find it.
But I guess is that
It's
leave
all
a comment, the standard leave a comment from a blog post.
yeah, that comes with WordPress, but
It's not like
right
using
here I
a,
had to
you know,
go in and
constant-
find out all the
Contact 7 or something.
no, I had to find out all the divs and IDs, and I did a bunch of CSS coding to get the name below the image to the left of the content, because by default I think it's the image next to the name with the content below. So I had to go through CSS and fix that bit to make it into the image above the name to the left of the comment.
Okay. Well, very nice. You did a lot of work, and
Yeah.
thank you. Okay. Again, we'll continue to try and build a grid structure on a page, and consider downloading the sketch to try it.